Okay, so we've got to talk about this big, beautiful bill. It is big. It's a bill. Beautiful? That's doing a lot of work in that sentence. But let's talk about it. Starting out with the obvious. For the rich, the tax cuts that they got in 2017 that started to tank the economy then, and people didn't realize it, that is going to be permanent now. There is a bigger state tax exemption for people who want to give their estate to their heirs. It was $5 million, and now it has jumped to 15. The exemption for the alternate minimum tax, which is the minimum taxes that rich people have to pay, that has been raised. So they're actually going to pay even less taxes than they do now. And we know from seeing Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg, they don't pay taxes anyway, at all. Even Donald Trump only paid like $780 something in taxes in like 3 years. This will make it so they don't pay any taxes. And in fact, they may even get a credit, which means that they get money back from the government. LLCs and S-Corps will still get a 20% deduction in taxes. Now, this is good for small business owners. However, those big corporations, they are also going to benefit from this as well. So once again, those people not paying any taxes at all. For the middle class, in this bill, the child tax credit stands, and so does the standard deductions that you get, especially if you are married and you have dependents. However, you can no longer write off job expenses. So teachers, I don't know if that's going to actually affect you. I know that teachers write off their job expenses a lot because they spend their own personal money to buy things for their classrooms. We're going to have to look in a little bit further to see whether or not this actually affects teachers. So basically, if your job doesn't reimburse you for the things that you did for work, then that's out of your pocket. I also don't know if this goes for 1099 people. I know creators and freelancers, people like me, we fill out a 1099 and we have a bunch of deductions that we have for operational costs. I don't know how that's going to affect that. So watch this space. I'll get back to you on that one. You will no longer be able to deduct tax prep, moving costs. If you move and you move for work particularly, you will no longer be able to claim that on your taxes. You're welcome. There will be a limit on itemized deductions as well. Now, the poor, the people that need the most help, people who Jesus would call the least of my brethren. This is what they get. For SNAP benefits, which is food assistance, there will be a stricter work requirement. Now, for anybody on SNAP, you'll know that you're usually on SNAP because you are either between jobs, or you just lost your job and you need to get by, or you have a disability that is making it so you can't work, or something of that magnitude. And you are unable to provide the food for yourself. So they are now going to make you prove that you are working. So whether or not you have a job depends on whether or not you eat. Assistance won't even be provided for you unless you have a job, because that makes sense. We'll just go ahead and kick them while they're already down there. If you are on Medicaid, there will be more frequent checks and new paperwork that you need to fill out. The problem with that is that the risk of you being kicked off of Medicaid without being told that you're kicked off of Medicaid until these new requirements are met is pretty high. This is actually why I say that the pro-life party is absolutely full of shit. Because this provision was actually supposed to be set for 2029 is when this was supposed to go into effect. But the Republicans thought that that was too far away. Throwing people off of healthcare, which this is supposed to affect 14 million people at least, throwing those people off of healthcare couldn't come fast enough for them. They decided that this is going to take effect next year. Also, for the poor, there were programs that were built into the EBT system. If you had EBT, you could count things like the internet as utilities. Well, even though every single thing now that you do is based on having the internet, in this bill, the internet is no longer viewed as a utility. So people who are the poorest among us, who need the most help, who need to use the internet for various reasons that we all need to use the internet, because they're poor, they don't have the right to use the internet the way that everybody else does. That is not viewed as a utility for them. This is going to make it harder for a lot of people to keep their internet on. Also in the bill, they put restrictions on using EBT to pay for items online. Amazon has their online food store. You can use EBT with that. Walmart has online food abilities. You can use your EBT with that. A lot of places that offer groceries offer EBT payments, and you can get them delivered to your house. This is very helpful for people who are disabled. This is very helpful for people who don't have a car, which is very common if you are poor. This is also very helpful for people in rural areas who can't always get out to get the stuff that they need, so they have it delivered. If they can't use their EBT for that, then that makes it so they can't get the food that they need because they can't get out to go get it. Pro-life party wants you to starve in your house because you can't physically get out to get the food that you need to get. And you can no longer have it delivered because you can't pay that way anymore. There's a lot more, but this video is going to be long enough, so I'm going to do a part 2 that involves our courts, our green energy, our schooling system, and the fact that they took some powers away from the presidency, which I find was interesting, but I think it has more to do with Biden than it does with Trump. That's it for this video. Catch me in part 2 for more of what's in this bill.